somebody who's strongly represented, been in the startup community here for some time. One of the co-founders of a company I'm a big fan of called Yeepay. Please put your hands together for co-founder and VP Chen Yu from Yeepay, everybody. Thank you. So I've interviewed you, I think, a couple of times up here over the last 9 years. So I apologize in advance for that. Yeah, so why don't you bring us up to speed? You know, how old is Yeepay now? What's the
sure.
What's the year that you started it? And what's been the sort of trajectory? I think it's been 9 years now. Is that right?
Actually, this is our 10th year.
10th year. Congratulations. 10 years old, everybody. Fighting. Put your hands together for that. That's awesome. So strong. I love it.
Yeah. So maybe I can start by telling everyone a little bit about Yeepay. So we started in the end of 2003. So this is actually our 10th year. And our headquarters is based in Beijing, but we also have branch offices across China, like in all the big cities, like Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Chengdu, and we pretty much opened more than 20 plus branch offices across China. And everyone knows that the payment market has been growing very fast in the past 10 years. So we officially launched our service in early 2005. And by the end of last year, we are already processing more than $20 billion in transaction volume. So basically, you know, we provide.
That was a P, right?
Well, that's the transaction volume.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the market is still growing. If you look at the whole payment market, it's actually still in a very early stage because a lot of people still rely on the legacy payment systems, whether it's on cash or COD, bank or postal wires. So there's still a lot of room for growth, and especially when we're talking about like mobile payment and also like the conventional POS, like even like the Square-like copycats, right? So there's so many opportunities still in the payment market.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about the China landscape right now. The market, just as Chi Hu was talking about, there's a dominant triumvirate of players, Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent. Also in the payment space, you have China Mobile, China Unicom, China Telecom that sort of have their own payment infrastructure. You have Yeepay and the banks, and you also have Alipay. Where's the fit for you guys, and where's the growth?
Well, yeah, you mentioned the big carriers, China Unicom, China Telecom, and China Mobile. So they all have their payment companies, but they're not the biggest ones because they're still. Their payment companies are still young, and they still rely on payment providers like us to process their transactions. So in a way, we're actually still cooperating with the telcos. We actually provide a payment infrastructure for those big guys like China Unicom, China Mobile, and China Telecom. In payment market, everyone knows that the biggest players are guys like Alipay or China Unionpay, so they're very well established, which means that we cannot compete with them directly. But the good thing is that payment is actually a very, very broad term, right? And this is a very big ecosystem. It's not like a single technology product, right? It's not like a single point technology. So if you look at the value chain, like up and down, there are many different opportunities. So there are actually very different types of payment service providers. So in our case, our biggest differentiation is that we try to focus on the vertical markets, right? If you look at the big guys like Alipay or China Unionpay, so they pretty much see payment as a generic tool, right? They don't really differentiate much across different industries. Whereas in our case, we actually can provide custom-made solutions for all these different verticals, from e-commerce to telecom to air and travel to insurance, financial services, right? So we can actually provide customized solutions for all these different vertical industries because the payment requirements could be very different from one industry to another. Well, the second thing we try to focus on is really to provide more value-added services on top of the basic payment functionality. So if you look at the value-added services, there are actually two categories, right? So the first category of value-added services are those marketing-related value-added services. because payment is actually in the last mile in the whole transaction cycle, right? So you can actually leverage that strategic position to do a lot of marketing and value-added services to generate more sales leads for your merchants, right? And the second category of value-added services are really those financial services related value-added services. So for example, in addition to payment, we can also do factoring, we can do credit, we can do supply chain financing. So all these financial services are actually built on top of the payment functionality, right? And the third differentiator is that we try to provide a one-stop integrated payment platform. It's basically like a total solution for our merchant customers. So in addition to online payment, we can also do mobile payment. We can do call center telephone-based payments. We can also do the conventional point of sale, the POS payments, as well as the like the Square payment everyone is talking about today. Right? So essentially, we can do vertical solutions, value-added services, and also one-stop total solutions.
So if you look at something like Square, I was in the States recently, and it seems to have really taken hold in a lot of, especially in Silicon Valley, and a lot of more sort of, I guess, technical sort of startup cities and coffee shops. I know that there's other clones here in China. Where do you see the sort of growth possibility for something like that? And are you involved in that space at all? Are you helping to process anything around that, or is that basically something that would go with like a Yeepay or something with a credit card?
Yeah, I mean, in the U.S., if you look at Square, the main market it's targeting is really the SME, right? Small, medium-sized merchants, right? Because those merchants do not really have the ability to get like a real POS, right? So what they can do is simply to use their cell phones as their card reader to process those credit card-based transactions, right? In China, the market is slightly different because of all the fraud and because of all. And the biggest issue is actually with the regulatory environment. Strictly speaking, you're not supposed to use like the Square-like card reader for transaction processing, right? So what we do here is really to target certain verticals. For example, we can actually give out those Square-like clones, like those dangles, to insurance agents. So instead of collecting cash in the field, they can actually use their smartphones as a card reader to process credit card-based payments. In the long run, I think it's definitely going to take off, but it's going to take some time because the market here is very different than the market in the US.
That's interesting. So instead of doing the SME focus, you do something it's a much higher ticket, but
certain verticals,
much lower fraud because if somebody's buying insurance.
Right. And the other angle is what the guys like Lacala, what they did is actually to use the Square-like card readers for the consumers instead of for the merchants.
So
they actually give out those Square dangles to consumers so they can actually pay for their phone bills, they can pay for their utility bills, not for receiving payments, but for paying out payments, right?
Interesting. And I asked, same time about the online versus mobile. How are you seeing mobile growth sort of in the market and also for your company? And what are the opportunities and I guess threats? I mean, I know you're doing the back end part for the operator, so that gives you the ability to kind of grow with them. What are you seeing outside the typical sort of payments, like sort of doing stuff for not just virtual items or ringtones, but also e-commerce and other mobile payments?
Yeah, I think everyone is talking about mobile payment these days because mobile payment is a very sexy term, right? But the thing is, I think is that we need to clarify on the definition of mobile payment because it could be a very broad term. So when people say mobile payment, they could be referring to very different things, right? The way I see it is that there are at least three kinds of mobile payments, right? The simple formula is really to see what kind of things you turn a mobile phone into, right? So based on that formula, the first kind of mobile payment is what we call the NFC-like payment, right? So the essence of that kind of payment is really to turn your mobile phone into a credit card, right? right? And is actually mostly used for those offline retail face-to-face kind of transactions, right? So those places that you could use your credit card, now you can use your mobile phone. Just wave your mobile phone to make the payment, right? The thing is that for this kind of payment, you have to operate your phone, right, to support like the NFC chip, and you also have to operate all the POS terminals, right? So usually it actually involves a lot of the capital and investment. So this kind of payment is primarily championed by the big guys like the China UnionPay or like the telecom carriers, right? And the second kind of mobile payment is really to turn your mobile phone into an internet terminal. Basically, it's an extension of your PC, right? You move the internet from your desktop to your mobile phone, right? So you can actually do a lot of the remote transactions. A very simple example is basically the App Store on your iPhone, right? So instead of buying from your desktop, you can actually buy apps directly from your cell phone, right? But essentially everything is still going through the internet, right? So basically your mobile phone is just like an internet terminal, and this kind of mobile payment is mostly used for remote transactions. And for companies like us, like either Yeepay or Alipay, we're more in this space, right? If you look at the guys like Alipay, their payment is primarily for mobile payments. For those transactions on the Taobao on their mobile phones, right? In our case, in addition to e-commerce, we also do a lot of the virtual goods, like the digital entertainment, digital contents. People basically can pay for games and music or video on their mobile phone. And the third type of mobile payment is really like the Square clones, right? So the essence of that kind of payment is really to turn your mobile phone into a POS terminal, point of sale terminal, so you can actually process credit card transactions. And the essence of that kind of the mobile payment is really targeting those merchants, right? It's not intended to be used, at least initially, it's not intended to be used by the consumers, because you can actually turn your mobile phone into a card reader, so you can process credit card or debit card payments.
Interesting. That really frames it nicely for me. I hadn't really thought of it that way, but that is quite clear. I was in Japan recently, and I saw that a lot of people are using their phone. But as you said, it necessitates to have that other supporting infrastructure in place. Where is China right now when it comes to NFC, both on the terminals and on the...
Yeah, for NFC, because it involves a lot of infrastructure upgrade, so it's very expensive, and it's not going to,
So basically, all the point of sale terminals, they would have to be changed out.
Right, and also your mobile phones, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know China Mobile is doing some like pilot programs in certain provinces, but right now, at this point, there's still no large-scale success. In the long run, I think it's going to take off a little bit. But even in the U.S., right?
Probably like major cities, right. 2 or 3 years before we see any sort of real change, in probably 5 years until
maybe 3 to 5 years. And also, in my view, it's only going to be used for certain scenarios, like for those convenience stores, or maybe like your 公交一卡通, right? When you pay for the public transportation, that's the most natural use case for those kind of payments.
Very interesting. Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for the update. It's already just past noon. It's lunchtime, and thank you all for coming out this morning. We're going to be starting lunch right now, and we'll be kicking off the afternoon with some other terrific speakers. Please help me in welcoming Chen Yu from Yeepay, everybody. Thank you.